citizens of YouTube land.
Hey.
And it's your president and your VP. And we're back with another installment of the 12 Days of Christmas-a-thon. This time it's Ernest Saves Christmas, which premiered November 11th, 1988. And it was produced for a budget of $6.5 million and made $28.2 million at the box office, which makes it a moneymaker. So, the movie stars Jim Varney as Ernest P. Worrell, and it has Douglas Seal as our Santa Claus in this film.
Which you may recognize him from two other Disney properties. The guy who plays Santa Claus is the voice of the Sultan in Aladdin, and Jim Varney is Slinky the dog from Toy Story.
Yeah, so right away, guys, got to tell you that also this is the most successful of the Walt Disney Ernest films, being as that it made the most money, and it's the second movie of the Walt Disney Ernest movies that were produced under their Touchstone Pictures division. So they're a subsidiary that allowed them to give PG rating. Yeah, exactly. It allowed them to do PG, and I think, don't quote me on this, but I think Touchstone also put out some PG-13 movies back in the late 80s, early 90s as well.
They did.
So, with that being said, guys, also, this is the third movie to feature Ernest.
Dad's Sister Act has a PG, or has a PG-13 rating.
Are you sure about that?
I'm fairly certain it does.
Okay.
Let me fact check
Well,
that
while he
quick.
fact checks himself, I will get us started into the movie. So the movie opens up with Ernest, and he's a taxi driver in Orlando. And the passenger that he's driving to the airport needs to get to the airport in a hurry. So what does Ernest do? He drives like a Formula One race car driver.
I was wrong.
He drives like a Formula One race car driver through the lanes of traffic. He's zigzagging. He's speeding all over the place. What is clearly... Okay, and this is the beauty that is this film, is actually how cheap everything is, and also how glorious it looks at the same time, because we don't have the actual actor from the beginning that told him, hey man, I need to hurry up. No, instead, we have what appears to be either a mannequin or a crash test dummy. Okay, that they've dressed up to look like the actor. Because when Ernest zigzags out of traffic, right, the clearly mannequin, stunt double, body double is slung out of the taxi, and Ernest slams on the brakes, and he's like, oh, I gotta go grab that guy. So he runs over there and throws the guy back in the taxi and drives him to the airport. All the while he's singing like Christmas carols, because the actual opening shots are a really nice still image collage of different Santa portraits with a Christmas tune over.
It's actually "Oh Christmas Tree" from is it Charlie Brown that came up with the song?
I don't know for sure, but because that had segued into Ernest singing "Oh Christmas Tree" as he's doing all of this stuff.
He doesn't even sing the rest of the lyrics. No, he's just like, "Oh,
so
Christmas
at
tree,
the same time,
Christmas tree."
At the same time,
Christmas tree.
Santa Claus has arrived in Orlando, and he's immediately making like Santa-esque puns. For example, he tells one of them, he's like, oh, is this your first trip to Orlando? He's like, no, actually, I come here pretty often. I just don't fly here. And then he's like, oh, well, where you from? He's like, oh, I'm from up north. He goes, me too. Well, I'm a little farther north than Toronto, okay? So, basically. And then he tells the guy, he's like, yeah, I want to see snow for Christmas. And that actually plays into the finale of the film, which we'll get into a little bit later.
Yeah.
But
and let's not forget that when he gives the guy his passport, the name, the country of origin that he's from says Prussia on it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a cool little detail.
Yeah, it was a cool little detail and a cool little, throwback.
And that's something you probably won't get because according to the Santa Claus story and all that, because we know we have kids that watch this channel, but according to the Santa Claus story, the real life Santa Claus is from Germany.
Yeah.
St. Nicholas is.
Exactly. So with that being said, he gives the guy the passport, and he looks at it, and he's like, oh, Santa Claus. And then the guy looks up and sees like a bunch of weirdos that are like Mohawks and whatnot for the time period.
And he's like,
that's the implication.
And he's like, I hate my job. He's like, is Santa Claus your real name? He's like, well, yes, sir. He's like,
okay.
All right, fine. He's like, thank you, Skippy.
And because he knew the guy's name, which is also kind of important a little bit later because we come back to this character. But at the same time, the reindeer show up, okay? And they're at the airport, and they're pretty much, the reindeer are stuck with these two guys that we like to refer to as the two jerks who aren't Ernest. And they take up a pretty good portion of the screen time.
Yeah.
And they're kind of annoying, and they're played by these two character actors that are actually in a bunch of Ernest movies. And we have to get into them a little bit later if we decide to do like Ernest Goes to Jail, because in that one they're pretty bearable. In this one, they're kind of gross and sad, if I gotta be honest about it.
So Ernest, after he just he's being chased by airport security, right? And so Santa Claus is like, taxi. And so Ernest is like, oh, I'm a taxi driver. And so he like drives them to the Children's Museum. But then that's when we meet Harmony Star.
And also, Santa Claus reveals himself to Ernest that he's the one true Santa Claus. And Ernest
Ernest is just like, yeah, okay.
He just immediately goes with it. He is full on board with this whole concept about helping Santa Claus because, see, Santa Claus is getting older, and as the Santa Clauses get older in this universe, in the Ernest universe, if you will, as Santa Claus gets older, the magic starts to die and fade. So Santa Claus has to transfer the power after a while to a new Santa Claus.
Yeah.
So with that being said, he Ben runs into Harmony Star, who had probably been shoplifting actually beforehand because she is a runaway from Bloomington, Indiana. This is important. It comes up later. And so she is now on the adventure with Ernest and the Santa Claus. And so they're making banter back and forth. And Harmony is like, you're not the real Santa Claus. And he just like straight up calls her by her real name, Pamela, like immediately. And because he's like, she's like, oh, how do you know this? And, she starts to have some doubts. So we'll get back to that in a moment. In the meantime, we meet Joe, who's this guy. He's like really full of heart and Christmas spirit, and
he's really good with the children.
I
guess Santa Claus has been keeping an eye on him for a while because we see Santa Claus, like this Santa Claus, walk up to Joe and he's like, "Hey, you're really good with the children, and I've been keeping an eye on that. And I want to offer you something." He's like, I am Santa Claus.
Yeah, he just straight up, Now imagine, okay, you're a children's like actor puppeteer, right? Because that's what Joe is. And this crazy old man just walks up to you and it's like, yeah, I'm Santa Claus and I'm going to transfer my power to you. I mean, how would you react, right? So, Joe immediately thinks this guy is crazy, and he
doesn't. He does think he's crazy, but
he feels sorry for him.
But he shows kindness to him.
Yeah, he doesn't want to see the old man hurt or harmed, and so then we meet this character who is Joe's manager.
Yeah, we're going to refer to him as the manager, who also happens to be a rich asshole.
Yeah, and that's his whole motivation is money. So
yeah,
with that, that's his only defining feature too. It's like he desperately wants to get Joe away from like working with the children and doing what makes Joe happy, and into this like really crappy horror film that is called, what was it called again?
I think it was called like Christmas Sleigh or something like
Yeah.
that. And later in the film, this is like we're jumping ahead here. Later in the film, Joe actually goes to the producers and he's like, "Hey, you think we could tone down the violence and the language a little bit?" He's like, "Hey, buddy, you don't get to make the scripts around here. All right, you're not some big time star that can make changes to the scripts." And so he's like, and I'm like, I made this joke. I'm like, listen, violence and language in a Christmas film is okay if you can do it right, like Die Hard. Unless if you're Die Hard, you aren't going to do it well.
Well, I mean, there are other films out there which we've covered in the
Krampus.
past. But, go back and check out that review if you haven't.
Please, it's underrated. Please.
Anyways,
okay, enough with that.
Anyways, guys, so, and also, which we're going to jump ahead a little bit, too, because, like, Santa Claus barges on the set to offer him the job once again. And he immediately finds out that it's a movie about where the alien monster terrorizes children on Christmas, which is actually kind of like a cool concept, if I got to be honest. But this was like an 80s B budget film, horror film.
Oh, so Santa Claus versus the Martians?
Well, no.
Oh, much worse?
No, with more money.
Oh, with more money. Okay.
Yeah. So, Santa Claus got so offended at the director because of this, he like immediately smacks him in the face, and like you later see that Santa Claus really did a number on this guy. So it's like really funny that this like young director gets his face all like mashed up by an old Santa Claus.
Oh, we also can't forget, going back earlier in the film, Santa Claus gets arrested.
Yes.
Because they don't think he's Santa Claus.
Yeah, because of the manager.
Because
the manager calls the cops on him.
And it's like, dude, instead of the cops taking him to, I don't know, a hospital for him to get checked out, no, they take him to jail.
Yeah, and so
so
they're then booking him, right? And they're fingerprinting him, okay? And this is like really cool too, because he gets his thumbprints and his fingerprints, and they ask him his age, and he's like, "I'm 151 years old." Just straight up.
And then they see that there's like snowflakes in his fingerprints. He's like, "Huh, I've never seen that before."
And so
they
throw Santa Claus in the jail.
Yeah, with the new inmates, and then he's immediately he gets them to sing Christmas carols.
So Ernest, who had been waiting on Santa Claus, finds out that Santa Claus has been put in jail. So Ernest disguises himself as this like lawyer guy, and he makes Harmony Star pretend to be the governor's daughter. So they go into the jail and they get Santa Claus. and he has all of the inmates believing that he's Santa Claus now too. So we can add Ernest, children, and convicts as people who believe in Santa Claus in this movie.
Yeah, it's really fun, guys. Because just speeding up along, they basically they go all their separate ways to like gather their they go all their separate ways to gather all the ingredients for Joe to take over, because Joe initially declines at first. And so then then he sees Ernest fly the sleigh. He's like,
which is an awesome moment in the movie.
He's like, he's real. And then he's like, I'm him. And he's like, who's him? He's like, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas to all of you. And then he's like, bolts off.
So the reason why they have to gather all the components together, though, is that like Santa Claus had doubted Harmony, who, as I said, his real name is Pamela, and she had taken Santa's magic sack of toys and was going to run off to Miami. And then at the last moment, we get like this little kid teasing his sister about being Santa Claus, about there not being one. And Harmony's like, hey, there is a Santa Claus, and this is his magic bag. And she's like, well, if that's Santa's bag, why do you have it? So she like bolts back to him, and then big happy endings. Ernest gets to drive the sleigh once more with Santa Claus. Harmony's on board as well. Santa Claus has a love interest because now he's just
The other
an old
Santa Claus,
man.
not Joe.
Yeah, the other Santa Claus. So with that being said, guys, that was Ernest Saves Christmas. It's a fun romp. It gets a 3 7/8 out of 5 for me. It did get knocked down just a bit because
There's no Rudolph.
there's no Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Oh, and there's no Krampus either.
But we did get like an end credit shot, which, guys, I don't know why this didn't happen, but it's a crying shame that it didn't. And that is Ernest meets the Easter Bunny, because we got like a tease for the Easter Bunny at the very end of the movie. And all I can say is that the world will weep that we never got that movie.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, guys, though, as always, if you've seen Ernest Saves Christmas and you believe that it is the worst Christmas movie of all time, then clearly, which we made a reference to earlier, you have not seen Santa Conquers the Martian.
Oh.
So with that being said, guys, stay tuned, because next time it's going to be
A Flintstones Christmas Carol,
which is continuing our tradition where we're doing this 12 Days of Christmas-a-thon of different Christmas Carol movies adaptations. So next time we're going to look at the Flintstones take on it, and then after that,
I think it's Jack Frost.
after that, it's Jack Frost. So guys, stay tuned. We'll keep going with these. I hope you guys had as much fun as we did with this one. As we said before,
Yeah, it's Jack Frost.
As we said before with Ernest Saves Christmas, at its core, it's a movie that has more heart than it deserves. But hey, just remember, if you don't agree with any of this, just remember one thing, and that is, we're just two idiots with a webcam. Our opinions do not matter, except they actually do, because we have a YouTube show, except they actually don't. So having said all that, guys, stay tuned. And until then, there's only one thing left to say, and that is peace and love from Denny and Son. Bye.